Thank you for joining us and for everyone that's here with us in person. It is always good to be with you in person and to celebrate in the house of the Lord together. If you're here for the first time, my name is Pastor Jax, and I have the privilege of being the pastor here. It's just incredible. You know, and there's so many things as a pastor that is fun, that you love, and a lot of things that you get to do, and also things that are not so fun. You know, it's an honor to be part of a funeral, but it's tough to do that. To sit with someone's pain, it's tough. But the other things, it's a joy when you can attend a wedding, to see that celebration. And I've done a couple of weddings as a pastor, and you know, it's interesting. Some interesting weddings that I've attended. Each wedding is different, and with the couples that I always sit with couples before I officiate the wedding. I get to know them and speak. You know, we talk about a couple of things, and it's always interesting what comes out in those meetings, because then I get to see who these couples are, and the things that you hear. And certain red flags that go up, like, okay, this is, I'm not saying you should not get married, but you're going to have to work really hard on this. Especially if, now both have said this before. As I sat with a couple, I heard the future groom and the future bride say, yeah, I really love him, I really love her. It's just, I want him to change more like this. I want her to change more like this. And if you're married and you've been married for 30, 40 years, you're still trying to do that. You know, so we don't necessarily change. We've got to learn to accept each other and love each other. I read about another lady that she's married to her husband, but she's got a relationship with ChatGPT. Because her husband doesn't speak a lot. So she asks ChatGPT a lot of stuff, and he answers, gives us the emotional advice. Yeah, I don't know how that would work. But what is interesting is to see that when it comes to marriage, some people they want to treat their spouse or as something that is customizable. You know, I want it to fit me. It's like when you go get takeout. Can I get a cheeseburger, but no tomato? Even if you do it on the app, no tomato, no sauce, no. I just want this. And can you, I don't want fries. Give me sweet potato fries. That's better. You know, or if you've played Sims years ago, and newer games, you have an avatar, and you create that avatar. It's fun, because no, I don't want this kind of hair. Yeah, this blonde will do. Okay, wait, green eyes, blue, this looks good. What about we make my wife speak less? Or, you know, and if only. And I'm talking, the wife would maybe want to do something else. What if I ask my husband to do something and he does it immediately? Yes. We think like that. Sometimes people want the customizable in marriage, and I've seen the same when it comes to Jesus. That people have always tried to customize Jesus. And in Matthew 16:24, we read, it says the following: Then Jesus told his disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. And from the get-go, he was just saying, I am not a customizable king. And that brings us to the question, what kind of king is Jesus? And today, we're celebrating Palm Sunday all over the world, and in in celebration. We're looking forward the build up to next week. And as Ray said, it's really one of the biggest events in Christian history. For us as believers, it's a big deal. This is an important week that we celebrate. And during Holy Week, during this week, as we read in Scripture, there are 4 places that Jesus shows up where he shows us the type of king that he is. On the roadside, on a donkey, in the temple, and at the table. And we're going to take a look at these 4 places and the type of king that he shows us. This is the type of king that I am. I'm not the king that you can customize. This is who I am. The first place that Jesus comes and shows us what type of king is at the roadside, or on the roadside. Matthew 20, verse 29 to 34. You're welcome to follow the notes that are on the app. And some of the scriptures we'll have here, you're welcome to follow as well. I'm reading from Matthew 20, 29 to 34. It says, "And as they went out of Jericho, a great crowd followed him. And behold, there were 2 blind men sitting by the roadside. And when they heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, 'Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David.' The crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent. But they cried out more, 'Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David.' And stopping, Jesus called them and said, 'What do you want me to do for you?' And they said to him, 'Lord, let our eyes be opened.' And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes, and immediately they recovered their sight and followed him. And they kept on shouting, and they addressed Jesus as the Son of David. Now, for the Jews, this made a lot of sense, because they've been, as a Jew, you knew what the Old Testament said. And the Old Testament said, it was speaking about a messianic promise in 2 Samuel 7, 2 to 13. It talks about when your days, he speaks to David. He says, "When your days are fulfilled and you lie down with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring after you, who shall come from your body, and I will establish his kingdom, and he shall build a house for my name, and I will establish his throne, his kingdom forever." So as a Jew, hearing someone address someone as the Son of David immediately referred to, oh, wait, this is the Messiah. You are addressing him as the Messiah, the promised king that will come, that God has promised. And the crowd that was with Jesus, they rebuke these people, these blind men. They say, "Be quiet. He's not this type of king. He's not this type of king that is going to stop for people like you. So stop. Be quiet." And not only does he stop, but he asks them, "What is it that you want me to do for you?" And they ask, "Please, we want to see. Open our eyes." And then he goes one step further and he touches them. It's just the incredible things to see what he does. He touches them, and it's on the roadside that Jesus shows us that he is a king of compassion. I'm going to stop for the lost. I'm going to stop for those that are sick, whoever needs me. I'm going to stop. I stop. I see you. I ask you, what is it that you want me to do? Not what I think, but what do you want? What can I do for you? And then he goes beyond one step further, and he touches them. I'm that type of king. I'm the king of compassion. The second place where he shows us what type of king he is on a donkey. Matthew 21, 1-9, it says, "Now when they drew near to Jerusalem and came to Bethphage, to the Mount of Olives, then Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, 'Go into the village in front of you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything to you, you shall say, the Lord needs them, and he will send them at once.'" And this took place to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet, saying to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming, humble and mounted. And the crowds that went before him shouted, Hosanna. And this morning, part of the worship and praise was Hosanna to the Son of David. Once again, referring to the Messiah. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. And today, as we celebrate Palm Sunday, why Palm Sunday? What does that have to do with the day and with Jesus? Now, palm branches were deeply symbolic to the Jews in Jerusalem at that time. You see, 150 years before Jesus, there was a revolt led by Judas Maccabees. And it was called the Maccabean Revolt. And under him, they recaptured Jerusalem and they rededicated Jerusalem. So it was an incredible time for the Jews to experience this liberation. So as Judas Maccabees entered Jerusalem, the Jews during that time waved branches, palm branches, and it was the symbol of liberation and hope for the Jewish people. But this liberation had a flavor of violence tied to it, because it was a revolt. It was a violent revolt, and they celebrated this. Judas came and he liberated us. 150 years later, the Jews experienced oppression from the Romans, and here they are singing and shouting Hosanna to Jesus coming and entering into Jerusalem with the palm branches, and they're saying, we want you, and we hope that you are Judas Maccabee number 2. You see, we want to customize you because we hope that you bring liberation, the liberation that we want, the liberation that we have in our minds. We hope that you are going to do this. We hope that there will be another revolt, another rebellion, and that's why they're shouting and with expectancy. You see, and a king never rode a donkey. Never. A king never did that. But as I just read, it was to fulfill the prophecy, say to the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, humble and mounted on a donkey. During wartime, a king would ride a horse. A horse talks about being fierce. During peacetime, it would be a donkey. If you just compare the two, a horse and a donkey, and if you've seen some animation, just think about Tangled, the Maximus the horse, very fierce, and then you think about Shrek the donkey, like, yeah, that's not fierce at all. But the people were grabbing to that. They wanted a fierce king. They wanted a fierce king, not a peaceful king, because we expect this liberation from the Romans. So as the crowd reaches for palm branches that represents this liberation, this revolt, Jesus reaches for a donkey, and it's on the donkey that he shows that he is the King of peace. This is the king that I will be, the King of peace. The third place that he shows us what kind of king he is in the temple. Now, Judas Maccabee, as he entered Jerusalem to reclaim it and to rededicate the temple, this was the moment that the crowd expected Jesus to take Jerusalem, take the temple, and reclaim and rededicate the temple. Matthew 21, 12 to 13, instead of rededicating the temple, it says, as Jesus entered the temple, he drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons, and he said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you make it a den of robbers. They took the place of prayer and they kind of turned it into a stock exchange. And I want to address this. There's nothing wrong. It was never about the selling of things. But these people were robbing people of having an encounter with God. Because they were saying, part of the law, that if you had sinned and you came to the temple to bring an offering, whatever sin you committed, if it was small sin, you had to buy a dove. If it was bigger sin, you had to buy a goat, or the bigger sin, the bigger animal you had to buy. But they would drive up the prices. It's like going to Costco and getting your $1.50 hot dog. And then you go to a kind of big event, and all of a sudden it's $12. What? $12 for a hot dog? And that's what they did. They had excessive prices because it just went about the money. It's all about the money. How can we make money? And this happened under the watchful eyes of the religious. It was not about how can we help these people have an encounter with God. It's how can we make money in this moment. And he, instead of entering the temple and rededicating the temple, he just turned over the tables and said, this is not what it's going to be about. We are not going to allow these people to keep people from having an encounter with God. Not under my watch. It says in verse 14, and the blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. In verse 15 to 16 says, when the chief priests and scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, and the children crying out in the temple, Hosanna, once again, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were indignant. And they said to him, do you hear? They asked Jesus, can you hear what they are saying to you? They're calling you the Son of David. They're actually referring or stating that you are the Messiah. And Jesus said to him, yes. Have you never read, out of the mouth of infants and nursing babies, you have prepared praise? He's telling them, religious leaders, you should take note. Take note of what God is doing. And in the temple, Jesus shows us and he shows them that he is the King of Kings and that he is the one to be worshipped. In verse 17, leaving them, he went out to the city of Bethany, and that is where he stayed. And it's here we get to our last place, number 4, where he shows us another thing of the type of king that he is. At Bethany, at the table. And it's at the table that we read about Mary of Bethany, that anoints Jesus. She anoints his feet with oil and wipes it with her hair. And, oil was used to anoint a king. It was used to anoint a king, and Jesus, the Messiah means anointed one. And here she comes and she anoints him. Now, let's just give in a little bit of cultural background. It was unacceptable for a woman to anoint someone, let alone a king. That would not happen. It has to be done, and it had to be done by a man. But Jesus welcomes it. He welcomes it, and he allows a woman to anoint his feet. And, not only is he anointed by a woman, but it's done in a leper's house. Simon the leper, it's done in his house. In a place that is, according to law, unclean. You should not be here. It should not happen here. But he allows this, and kings were anointed in preparation, and he tells us why he allows this. This is Matthew 26, 10 and 12. But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, why do you trouble this woman? She has done a beautiful thing. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Anointed at the hand of a woman in the house of a leper in view of the cross. It is at the table that Jesus shows us that he is King of the cross. King of the cross. Matthew 21:10, and when he entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred up, saying, "Who is this?" One day they shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David." And then the next day they deserted him because they wanted something else. They wanted a different king. They wanted to customize him. Tim Keller said the following, and I'm going to invite the band. You can come to the stage. He said, "Religious people find God useful. Christians find God beautiful." Religious people find God useful. Christians find God beautiful. And as we enter this week, and we look forward to Good Friday, the day that Jesus was crucified, and we look forward to Easter Sunday, and when He's risen. During this week, we've got to ask ourselves and look at your own life and your own relationship with Christ. Do you love Jesus or the version of Jesus that you've maybe created? And when certain agendas clash, your own agenda and that the gospel and the Jesus that you see in the gospel, when they clash, which one bows down? When we think about Palm Sunday, let's get to a place where we can see Jesus for the King that He is. I'm going to read the words of the one song. It says, "Jesus is strong and kind." So Jesus said that if I thirst, I should come to Him. No one else can satisfy. I should come to Him. Jesus said, if I'm weak, I should come to Him. No one else can be my strength. I should come to Him. Jesus said that if I fear, I should come to Him. No one else can be my shield. I should come to Him. Jesus said that if I'm lost, He will come to me. And He showed me on the cross, He will come to me. And this is why we get to celebrate this week, because He showed us that I will come to you. You that are lost, you that are in pain, that you have no hope, I will come to you. And here's the good news. The good news is that we can come to Jesus, but the good news is even better than that He will come to us. And we get to celebrate this week. I want to ask you to close your eyes, and if you're here and you've never had the opportunity to accept Jesus Christ, just like I said, He comes to us, but we can also run to Him. He died for every single one. Every single one. If you've never had that opportunity to make Him your Lord and Savior, I want to pray for you. I want to include you in this prayer. I'm not going to ask you to stand or come to the front. I just want to include you in this prayer. You can just, while no one is looking around, just quickly raise your hand and you can lower it. Amen. Well, I accept that everyone has made that decision, and that is incredible. You can open your eyes, and I'm going to ask you, let's stand, and we're going to end with the last chorus of a song. So let's stand and let's end with this last chorus.